And then there were 16. Let's go and get ready for this crazy ride we call the Stanley Cup Playoffs. Welcome to a special edition of Pucknology After Dark, the playoff preview. On tonight's episode, we will talk up the other 7 series and give our predictions, along with breaking down the Sharks' playoff series against the Los Angeles Kings with the most comprehensive Sharks playoff preview this side of the interwebs. You know, the ones that are working, not Twitter. We will hopefully be joined by John Hoven of mayorsmanor.com and the NHL on XM a little later in the program. But if you want to join in on the conversation, or as I like to call the chomp-versation, that's right. You can use the hashtag Pucknology After Dark. You can follow all of us on Twitter, as on the sites on the Twitter names below. You can also feel free to join us on the Google chat on YouTube. And since you're on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to our channel. We will feel the teal love right back at ya. All right. With us tonight, we have the guy who has a great name. He spells it the right way. With clean laundry in the background, Eric Landy.
Yeah, I mean, we've already established that my laundry gives us a better record. Now, I don't know if it's the home record or the road record that it's affecting, but it's affecting something.
All right. Also tonight, hands down the greatest bowler I've seen play against the Sharks, Chris JWS.
Well, I wasn't expecting that intro. Thank you.
You're welcome. A guy who needs no introduction, but doesn't work until I say Angry Canadian Robot, Ian Reed.
Hey, I am on a podcast marathon tonight, so bear with me.
All right. And here's Pucknology's teddy bear, my fellow Notch Bro, Gentry Alexander.
Hello, I'm only going to be here for 7 minutes.
What? Shut up. And to take us on our way, the man, the myth, the legend, the guy the Sharks bank on the sell tickets, Mr. AJ Strong.
What's up, guys? Let's get into this. I want to talk playoffs.
Playoffs?
Playoffs. So let's get into this. Washington versus Philadelphia. For those of you who don't know, Washington got the season series with 2 regulation wins and 2 overtime wins. Washington has no notable injuries, while Philadelphia is looking at Del Zotto, potentially Neuwirth. Now, we're going to start with our buddy over there on the other side of San Jose, Chris. The X Factor. Is Ed Snyder going to make a difference? What is your take on Washington versus Philly?
I take Washington in 5. Wouldn't be surprised if it is a sweep. Philly has a terrible PK, and Washington, they dissect the best PK, so it's easily going to be Washington, no question about this. Only way they lose is if they coast into this.
All right.
They really coast.
All right. Eric, puck guy.
Oh,
How
hi.
about you?
For me, let me clear the graphic off for a moment here. There we go. All right, for me, Washington. I think that Philly's going to be out of luck. They've always had goaltending issues. Washington seems to be on a good run. The only thing that gets in the way of them is if they just decide to pretend that they're Sharks from 2009 or the Caps themselves from 2010. Caps, I say, in 5.
All right. Angry Canadian.
Yeah, I'm going to go Caps in 5. I feel like the only reason I think it goes 5 is because I think there's going to be so much emotion in that arena in Philadelphia for Game 3 that can probably carry them to a win. I don't think it can carry them through the series. You know, Chris mentioned the PK, and the other thing that I would like to bring up is Shane Gostisbehere has been really good, but he's been really, really good on the power play, and he's been really, really good 3-on-3. Not sure how much of that they're going to see in this series.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to see a whole lot of 3-on-3 this series.
Yeah, no.
Gentry.
I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to say Philly in 7. I think the X factor is they're going to steal one, Gostisbehere, and I think Giroux is just going to surprise a lot of people and take it because obviously the Washington has coasted into the playoffs, and yeah, I don't think I think they're gonna screw it up because they're the President's Trophy winners.
Oh, there's a town in the desert of Nevada with really bright lights that wishes you would show up there with your wallet. Hey, Eric Landy, how about you?
I mean, consensus pick, gonna go with Caps. Probably go 5 games, maybe a sixth game, but yeah, I don't see Philadelphia holding a candle to the Caps, unfortunately.
Yeah, I got the Washington in 6, primarily because I think Philadelphia will try to do a little something to try to rally behind the whole Ed Snyder deal. Washington is a President's Trophy for a reason, even though they kind of glided the last few weeks. And hopefully, Holt be the likely Vezina winner. He's going to outplay Mason, Neuwirth, whoever the hell they get. You know, they could put Ron Hextall back in there. It's not going to make a difference. Barring some quirky key injury, Washington takes this. At most in 6. So moving on, we have everybody's favorite matchup, especially the folks back east and the guys running things at NBC, Pittsburgh versus New York. Now, obviously, we weren't able to do this preview yesterday, so we've had a couple of games go final already. So Pittsburgh has taken a 1-0 lead in that series versus New York. Pittsburgh won the series 3-1 over the regular season. Now, we all know that Pittsburgh has a couple notable injuries with Malkin. Fleury was listed as probable going into today, but he actually did not start. And then, of course, we know that the captain for the Rangers, defenseman Ryan McDonough, was out. Lundqvist was probable going into tonight, took a stick to the eye late in the first period, did not return to the game. And once again, the Rangers lost. So let's start with Puck Guy this time. I've got Pittsburgh winning this, and I believe what did I say, Ian? I said 6, right? I said everything was in 6. Yeah, so I got Pittsburgh in 6. And my X factor for this is Rick Nash. This guy needs to show up in a big game in a big way.
I agree with you. I think Nash is going to be a key player. With the uncertainty of some of their injuries, you have to kind of make a sense that it's going to be Pittsburgh for the taking, and that's what I pick for Pittsburgh to win in 6 games, barely clinging on with a clincher in overtime in Game 6. It's sad to see Dan Mother Puckenboyle going into retirement that way.
Yeah, it would have been nice to see them not going in so injury riddled. Ian, what say you?
I've got the Penguins in 5. I don't think that everything that's happened to the Penguins this year, it just seems like it just makes them better. They lose Malkin, big deal, we'll keep winning. Lose Fleury, keep winning. The Rangers are banged up on the blue line. I think the X factor in this series is actually going to be Phil Kessel. To see how he responds to finally being back in the playoffs. Can Jeff Zaktoff keep continuing if they can't get Matt Murray or Marc-Andre Fleury back in that? I'm not sure, but I feel really good about this Penguins team this year, so I've got the Penguins in 5.
How about you, Gentry? Where you got them?
I'm doing Penguins in 5 as well because I think everything that would be catastrophic for any other team has been the Penguins' strength. Malkin goes out, and Bonino has stepped in, and him and Kessel have found. But I think the X factor for the Penguins in this series is going to be Sidney Crosby. He's been one of the hottest players going in, and he's going to lead this team, and he's going to just dissect the Rangers who are injury riddled. So I'm going to go with the Penguins.
All right, Landy, are you one to go against the grain in this?
No, you know what? I think that Pittsburgh can really take it to the defense of the New York Rangers, especially with the injuries on the back end. I'm going to pick Pittsburgh in 5. I mean, the only way that I could really see New York fighting any way in this is to have a Rick Nash explosion, but I don't think that that's going to happen.
And how about you, Chris?
Well, I thought Lundqvist was going to be maybe the difference maker for New York, but if he's out, and especially with this game one loss, I like Pittsburgh in 7. I might even shorten that now to 6 or 5 because if Lundqvist is out any amount of time, I don't think the Rangers have a chance in this.
Yeah, that is disappointing. I do like me some New York when they're not playing anybody that wears teal. Moving on to the next one. And I don't know if I said it, but yeah, Pittsburgh in 6. So moving on, Florida versus the Isle. The road series, the regular series, Florida won this series 2-1. Notable outs for Florida, we have Mitchell is questionable, Trocheck is questionable. For the Islanders, Andersley, Hamonic, and of course the big one, Halak, and I believe also Grabowski's out. So my X factor in this is I think Bobby Lou, Mr. Roberto Luongo, is going to outperform our former backup Thomas Greiss with Halak being out. So I've got the Florida, I believe, in 5 on this one. I just don't have a whole lot of faith in the Islanders. They haven't won in, I believe, 23 years, and I think it's going to go on 24. Let's start with the angry Canadian, please.
Sure. I've definitely got the Panthers in this series. I think I have the Panthers in 5. The Islanders, those holes that they have, they're just too much to overcome, in my opinion. The Islanders are a team that I want to see make it over the hump so badly because I think they're a fantastic team to watch. I love John Tavares, but they need a goalie who can stay in one piece, and Halak isn't it. So I think this is going to be a short one. I think Florida's going to roll through in 5.
What say you, Gentry?
I'm taking Florida in 6, and I think the X factor for Florida is going to be Barkov. I think he's big and he's physical and he's built for the playoffs, and I think he's gonna steamroll over a pretty depleted Islanders crew and a backup goalie in Greiss.
Mr. Landry. Go ahead.
I take the Cats on this one. I think the goaltending really is going to sink the New York Islanders. I think the only way the Islanders really have a shot at this is if John Tavares just goes on a tear and really, carries the series. But you know what? You look at the Cats' defense. You look at the Cats' goaltending. I think it's just going to carry the day. And they have some pretty good forwards too. But yeah, I go. Let's say Panthers in 5.
All right, and Chris JWS.
Well, my original pick was Panthers in 7. I'll stick with that. Goaltending is really what it comes down to. There's a lot of things I like about the Islanders, but like you said, Bobby Lou gonna do better than Greiss.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning on. And finally, Mr. Puck Guy.
Yeah, I'm kind of the consensus when it comes down to the goaltending. I can't see Greiss doing anything much. Tavares has had an okay year. Okposo is coming up to a UFA, so he will have a chance. Although I think Yager, Campbell, Bugstad, Huberdeau, Ekblad, it's a young up-and-coming team, and I think this is going to take them to the next level. And if I'm not mistaken, it'll be the first time for Florida to win a playoff series in almost, 15, 20 years as well. I'll take Florida in 5.
Awesome. Moving on to finish us out, Tampa Bay versus Detroit. Once again, another series that got started earlier tonight with Tampa Bay eking out a victory against the Wing. I got to be honest, I wasn't happy about this because I've chosen the Red Wings in 7. I think there's still a lot of turmoil going around with Tampa Bay between Stamkos going down. Druin is my X factor here. If he is able to step up and carry some of Stamkos's water, then I think they can have an impact. Bishop's going to have to be bigger than he kind of already is some days. Both these teams played last year, went 7 games going Tampa's way. I just feel like this year it's going to go Detroit's. So the notable injuries, obviously Stamkos, another big injury for them. Strawman's out, and for Detroit, Miller out. Not a huge loss for them. So we'll start with Gentry. Who do you got? Tampa Bay versus Detroit. Like I said, I took Wings in 7.
I'm taking Tampa in 5 because Detroit has gone in questionable with goaltending, and I think Howard and I think Mazarek aren't ready to carry the series. So I think if the triplets line stays as hot as they have been, and Johnson is there at the center, I think you're gonna, like I said, well, the X factor is gonna be the triplets line. So I'm gonna take Tampa in 5.
And Landy.
I'm going to go with Tampa as well. I'm going to say this is a 6-gamer. I think Detroit will give them a scare. It might even go to 7 games, but I think the only way that Detroit really pushes through is if Pavel Datsyuk gives off his magic one more time, and I don't think it'll happen. But I'd say Tampa in either 6 or 7.
That creepy little magician. Chris, how about you?
I got Tampa Bay in 6. I think the Red Wings, they're a little over the hill. They aren't what they used to be. They barely squeaked into the playoffs. I like Ben Bishop, and I like the depth of the Lightning to push through on this one.
Nice. Mr. Puck Guy with your barkers?
That's not me.
Oh, okay.
They're team.
How do you go?
For Tampa and Detroit, oh boy, this one was kind of a toss-up because you're without Stamkos. They got to rely on Drouin, but Johnson, if he's still 100%, that's perfect. Otherwise, you can go Detroit, but I don't know if Detroit has anything left in the tank to get through the playoffs. So I go with Lightning in 6.
All right, and Angry Canadian.
I'm going to go the Red Wings in 6. Although I'm not, thrilled with the goaltending in Detroit. Jimmy Howard, who knows what's going to happen there? Who knows if Mrazek can come in and stabilize things if something goes wrong? But the big thing for me in this series is you have Pavel Datsyuk probably playing his last playoffs in Detroit. And I think that's going to give him a little bit of a bump. And I think that as the series progresses and as Stralman eats a lot of minutes on that blue line, and I think that as the series goes on, it's going to put extra strain on Hedman. You're going to wear down that D, and I think that's going to be the key to beating them. And, can Bishop stay healthy for a whole playoff run? I don't know.
Yeah, I was a little bummed out. Both two of the goals that Howard let in tonight were just snipe shots right above his shoulder. So hopefully we sew that up. But to sum it up, so we have our picks throughout, and as you can see, we're all pretty even on Florida. Ian's sticking out like a thumb there on Detroit. I guess Eric kind of missed out because I also chose Detroit. And then Gentry.
It's called working the graphic with like 5 minutes to air. Sorry.
There you go. And so then we've got everybody agreeing on the Caps except for Gentry, and everybody agreeing on the Pens except for Gentry. So either way, Gentry's bracket is going to be looking beautiful after the first round, or absolutely horrid.
I said Pittsburgh.
Wow. Okay. Well,
we're professionals, folks.
Yeah.
Professionals.
This is what happens. Okay. Anyway, moving on to the West, which is, let's be honest, a hell of a lot more fun. We're going to start off with Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas won this regular season series 4-1. Of course, Dallas's notable injury is Tyler Seguin. Last time I've heard, he was questionable, kind of moved up from doubtful. I don't know that he's been
skating.
He's skating, but I don't know that he's been cleared to roll. So we'll see what happens in Game 1. And of course, Minnesota's massively huge injury: Zach Parise out, Thomas Vanek out. For me, I'm going Dallas in 5. It could, in fact, be a sweep. The X factor for me is just as anybody who knows, I've never been a huge fan of Niemi Not a big believer in the guy. Not much of a bigger believer in Kari Lehtinen, but Dallas has so much up front that I think they can get by with that, similar to how Chicago got by with Niemi in the net in 2010. Dallas can roll. If Dubnyk and the Minnesota defense can do something to stretch this game out, I think obviously that's going to be in their best, the best that they can do, but I think Dallas takes care of this in 5. And we'll start with Landy this time.
I'd take Dallas in 3. Look, Minnesota is missing Parise, and they're going to miss Vanek, and to tell you the truth, they backed into the playoffs this year anyways. I just don't see how they keep up firepower-wise with Dallas. I think even Dallas's blue line is better than Minnesota's, to be quite honest. But
and healthy.
Outside of Ryan Suter, I mean, they don't really have anybody of note. I mean, there are a few defensemen, here and there, but I think Dallas is going to overwhelm Minnesota. Minnesota may squeak a game out, but I really think it's going to be a sweep. And I pick Kari Lehtinen is going to be the starter goalie. I think that's who they're going to go with.
All right, Christopher, what do you say, man? Bring your JWS opinion.
It's definitely Dallas in 5. Honestly, the Wild are really, really lucky to make the playoffs. The Avs would have beat them out if they had just gone 500 down the stretch. Instead, they went 2-8 in the last 10. It's got to be Dallas here. Goaltending won't even be that big of a factor in this one. Dallas's offense will carry the day. The Wild are already wounded, and I just don't see them being able to win more than a game.
Yeah, I think if we look at this series, this is the one that's most likely to be swept, odds on. Ian, how are you doing, sir? What do you say?
Yeah, I have Dallas in 5 before I realized that Parise was out for real. If I would have wrote that before Parise was, if I would have wrote that after Parise was announced, it'd probably be Dallas in 4. I don't know. There's nothing really that the Wild, in my opinion, can do to really make this a series. Yeah, they're missing, they're missing a couple of guys. Obviously, Parise is a huge loss. They're also missing Vanek. I think they're missing Vanek even when he was on the ice. Yeah, I don't see what's going to happen here. Dallas, the one thing that Dallas can do really well is outscore their mistakes, and I think against the Wild that's not going to be an issue. So Dallas Stars moving on for sure.
Gentry. Turn on your mic, good sir.
Sorry. No, I'm going to say Dallas in 5. I think Minnesota will steal one, but I think the X factor for Dallas is going to be, and it's not defense, and it's not going to be goaltending, and that's for damn sure, but I think it's going to be Jamie Benn. The guy's a leader, and he performs well in the playoffs, so give it to Dallas in 5.
And Puck Guy.
AJ, Chris, Ian, Gentry, Landy, you ignorant sluts. What have I told you guys about an upset in the first round before?
The same thing you told us about Winnipeg last year?
Winnipeg last year. But there are a couple of factors. One, it's the first time that the Wild will take on the Stars in the playoffs. Minnesota's going to be jacked up for that. Number 2, which goaltender is Dallas going to start? Lehtinen or Niemi? Kari Lehtinen?
I'd guess.
That's what I guess too.
I would guess too, because if they go with Nemo, then this could be a 6-game win for the Wild. Instead, I go Wild in 7 in triple overtime in Game 7 because it's the Cup, and Minnesota has a knack of pulling off upsets late.
Warning to our affiliates, we may be running long if we have Eric discuss Minnesota later in the show. Going into the next round, we have...
and the winner of that series gets to keep the name Stars.
There you go.
There you go.
That would be nice. That I would take. Okay, now we have St. Louis, Chicago. This is the series that, honestly, this is the other series I'm looking forward to in the West. St. Louis won the regular season series 3-2. Notable injuries for St. Louis: Steve Ott. That might be addition by subtraction. For Chicago, Corey Crawford, I believe at this point, last thing I've seen is he is probable to go.
He's
but
in.
whether I figured he's in. But as we all saw last season, Darling is a capable backup, and Chicago, they know winning. They know playoffs. Yes, Duncan Keith is suspended for Game 1. Big deal. Chicago is so overloaded up front. The only thing that makes me, I'm taking Chicago in 6. St. Louis might push it 7. I'm taking Chicago in 6 only because, I say 7 only because Christian Ehrhoff. But other than that, I roll with that. And so, Chris, let's go with you on this one. I got Blackhawks in 6. What say you?
I got Blackhawks in 7. I think this is going to be a really tight series, really tight. Tonight's game is perfect example. I mean, they are just going back and forth. I think, really, for me, the X factor, and this is going to be goaltending, which is the same in a lot of series, but this one I think will go 7, and I like Chicago's experience. It's just they've been there.
Puck guy.
Oh, sorry. Chicago in 5. I think St. Louis just does not have it, even though they outdid the points this year. I think Chicago's just got too much in their arsenal, and unfortunately for St. Louis, they'll be changing things up yet again in a year that they will go, what if?
All right. Ian.
Yeah, I got Chicago in 6. Couple of reasons, really. Big reason for me is that the St. Louis Blues goalies are made out of popsicle sticks and Scotch tape. I don't know how they're going to, they've been in and out all year, and I don't know if they can stay healthy through the playoffs. I think Chicago's just owned them, and I think Chicago's got that mental advantage over them. And Chicago seems to be like they got everyone back at the right time. This team is just as stacked as it was last year. I think the amount of games they've played in the past X number of years is going to be an issue, but I still think that the Blackhawks are probably the winners in this series, and I think St. Louis is going to give them a hard time, but it's going to be Chicago, and then St. Louis is going to get blown up over the summer.
All right, Gentry.
I'm gonna be the. I don't know. I'm going to go with St. Louis. I don't know what it is, but I feel like this is their make or break year, and I think they're going to be a little bit extra motivated. And I think the X factor is going to be Vladimir Tarasenko. I think he's going to just dance around Patrick Kane, who I know everyone's saying that, he's the heart, he won the scoring title, but God, Vladimir Tarasenko, I feel like is going to kick it into a whole new level, and he'll steal the series for the Blues.
Landy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with St. Louis in 7. I think this year is the year of the underdog, just an FYI for everybody. I think Elliott is really going to stand on his head, and I think he's going to prove that he's the number 1 there, and Jake Allen is still the kid that needs seasoning.
I think that he might get broken standing on his head.
Yeah, my X factor is a rested Duncan Keith. This guy's been out for the last 6 games, the last 5 of the regular season. He's going to miss the first one. A rested Duncan Keith, a guy who's played an awful lot of hockey, has some good amount of tread on the tires. I think that's a sign that something good could happen from him on the back end, being that rested. Moving on, we have a series that doesn't appear to have a whole hell of a lot of interest to a lot of people. Anaheim and Nashville. Now, the Preds won the regular season series 2-1, but we have to also take into account that those games were played on October 22nd, November 1st, and November 17th. And for those of you who were not paying attention, Anaheim absolutely stunk up the joint for the first 2 months. This season, they literally went from worst to first in the Pacific Division. Now, some things to take into account on this. For that first game, Nashville won 5-1, and there was Hudobin in nets for Anaheim. Not Anderson, not Gibson, but Hudobin. When Anaheim beat Nashville 4-2 in the second game, it was actually Hutton in nets and not Rene. And then your last game, Nashville 3, Anaheim 2. Anderson was actually pulled in favor of Hudobin against Rene. So just a couple little things for that, but we've all seen what Anaheim has done. The notable injuries for
crap. We have we have an injury from the St. Louis-Chicago game. Michael Roosevelt just got lit up, and he's exiting the ice.
Well, keep an eye on that for us. Anaheim, of course, Perron is out, BX is out, Peary is out. Nashville has no notable injuries. So for this one, I believe I have Anaheim in 6. And for me, I'm just going to throw this out there, and it pains me to say it. Anaheim is actually my pick to win this cup. They're a nasty team. We all know what a pain Perry and Kessler can be. They play on the edge. They get under your skin. And while Pekka Rinne is by far a great goaltender, he's not a great postseason goaltender. He's never gotten past the second round. And he's also going to be facing the number 1 power play and the number 1 penalty kill in the NHL. So that's why I don't think they get very far. Rinne is my X factor. Can he steal games away for Nashville? I don't think so. Anaheim in 6. Chris, how about you?
I'm taking Anaheim in 6 as well. Special teams go to Anaheim. They're the hotter team, obviously. Nashville's had an okay stretch going to the playoffs, but Anaheim, they're 8-2 in their last 10. So definitely taking Anaheim in this one.
Puck guy. And turn on your microphone, sir.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to hit it. Sorry. Anaheim, I think, just has too much going. Rinne and Johansson and Weber will make this a series. I think it goes 6 games with Anaheim on top, just to spite every Sharks and Kings fan around. So yeah, I go with Quackenheim in 6.
Ian.
Ducks in 5. I think that these are going to be low-scoring games, but I feel like, going back to what Chris said about the special teams, I feel like that's going to be the difference in the series. I feel like if Anaheim can taunt them into taking stupid penalties, which the Ducks definitely have some sandpaper guys, they're going to get Raquel back. They should be able to, outscore the Nashville Predators. I think it's going to be over in 5.
Yeah, that's actually why I have Anaheim going all the way to the damn special teams. Gentry.
I'm going to go with Nashville in 7. I think that Pekka Rinne can steal the series for Nashville, and I think that he's going to shut down Perry and Getzlaf and Raquel and, and former Shark McGinn. I think he's going to be the X factor, but also a junior X factor. I think it's going to be Phil Forsberg. He's gonna score a lot, and I think he's gonna light up Quackenheim. So I'm taking Nashville in 7.
Wow, Nashville in 7. Just to let you all know, I've just gotten a tweet from the valet at the Venetian in Vegas. They're sending a car over to Gentry's right now for his wallet. Eric Landy, how about you?
Okay, I'm going to take Nashville in 6, and I will tell you why.
Oh, the car has just been rerouted to San Diego.
Tell me if you've heard this story before, but Anaheim rolls all the way back from a horrific start in the beginning of the season and magically makes it to the playoffs and even wins the division. Stop me if you've heard this one before. And how did that end? It ended in defeat by Detroit in Game 7. I think that Anaheim has done this wizardry before, and they've expended so much energy, and not to mention that they're having some big issues injury-wise. I think their number 1 goalie is out. I'm not really a big fan of Anderson. I like Gibson more than I like Anderson. So I'm going to take Nashville. I think you've got a Ryan Johansson that's really aching to do some damage in the playoffs. It's going to be, it's only his second time in the playoffs. So I really think that Nashville is going to one-up the Ducks here.
We're going, just to let you know, when we are off air later, we will be putting money on this. So anyway, we are hoping that gets us through everybody, of course, except for the big one that we're all looking at. So as you can see,
Fuck.
Puck guy, hey, watch your language, sir.
He screwed up Gentry's pick.
That's all right. We're used to it. Can we have the graphic, please? It's already been done. You can't unring a bell. Just put it back up.
No.
As you can see, everybody has Dallas going except for Puck Guy, who has Minnesota, and of course we all know that worked out really well when he picked a team that has INN in their lettering last season. So we have that, and then
Yes, that's totally my idea.
And I'm to be honest with you, I'm surprised that the Anaheim pick wasn't unanimous. So it's going to be interesting to see how those roll. But I think we need to get something on the line for both of those series. We're hoping to get the mayor, John Hoven from SiriusXM NHL, joining us relatively soon. I know he's scheduled to come on right about now. And
Right
wow,
on cue.
right on cue. Just as I'm bringing him up, he's in here. The mayor, the man, the myth, John Hoven. How are you doing, sir?
Doing great, boys. How are you tonight?
Good.
Fantastic. So we've kind of we've gone through all our picks for the East and all of our picks for the West, with the exception, of course, of San Jose and LA, which is why we wanted your take to come on. But before we get that, is there anything you'd like to tell our listeners about? Anything you've got going on?
No, just looking forward to talking some hockey with you guys, and maybe at the end here we'll plug the website and things like that. But let's just jump into it.
All right, beautiful. So to start off, the season series, San Jose won the season series 3-1-1. Notable LA injuries are Green, questionable, Martinez, questionable on the blue end, and of course Gaborik. Notable San Jose, none really. I mean, we've got Vlasic as probable, we've got Nieto as probable. One thing, and all of the prognostications and all of the publications and all of the podcasts that I've heard, not one person has brought up what I thought is something kind of key. Everybody's talking about how fantastic Jonathan Quick is, and undoubtedly a great goalie. He hasn't beaten the Sharks this entire season. The Sharks lost twice to LA this season, and both of them were when Enroth was in the net. But the 3 games the Sharks won were all against Quick. I'm surprised nobody's brought that up. My X factor for this game is actually Patrick Marleau. The guy's been invisible for most of the season. He's rocketed a -22. Centering that third line, this guy has to come to play. He's got to find his second gear in this playoffs if he's ever going to. And then the penalty efficiency ratio for me. The Sharks are second. LA is bottom of the league, and LA loves to put other teams on the power play. If San Jose can take advantage of that, I think they can go. And I've got San Jose winning this in 7. Chris?
Oh, I didn't expect you to go to me so soon. So I have San Jose in 7. To me, this series is darn near a toss-up. Like, my heart says San Jose. I could see this going either way very easily. The X factor really is the defense on both sides, who keeps their goalie the most clean. If the Sharks get to Quick, I think they win. If the Kings get to Jones, I think they win.
Good. I like that. Eric, Puck Guy?
Again, I wasn't expecting it, really. I think there's some retribution for what has happened in the last 2 times these teams have met. I think there has to be a hungrier team with the Sharks. I do agree with you, AJ, that it comes down to special teams. I think if the Sharks power play can do what they did against Vancouver in 2013, it can really get their opponent's game off. However, there is that swagger that Los Angeles has that could go a long way to intimidating San Jose. However, I am in teal, so I'm going to be slightly biased, and I'm going to go San Jose in 7.
Well, all of us are clearly biased on this. How about the mayor? You don't have skin in this game like we do. How do you take this whole series in, and what do you think of the keys and the X factors, and who's going to come out of this?
Look, I think Chris and Eric both brought up some good points. Of course, when it comes to goaltending, a lot's going to be made out of the goaltending matchup, of course, because Martin Jones played in Los Angeles, and so you're going to get, Quick versus the understudy, student versus the teacher, all that sort of stuff. I'm on record as saying I think Jonathan Quick is the best goaltender in the National Hockey League when it comes to big money games. In a Game 7, there's no other goaltender I'd rather have in the net. And when it comes to the playoffs, which is more of a defensive-oriented game, you sort of have to look at the matchups that way, start in goal and sort of work their way out. So quick gives the Kings an advantage, I think. The defense would also be an advantage to Los Angeles, considering the fact that they have Drew Doughty anchoring the blue line. And it was interesting that you guys talked about Patrick Marleau there on the third line, because at the very beginning of the year, my sort of take, if you watered down my entire analysis of the Kings, it would have been they were going to go as far as their bottom six was going to take them this year. This is a team that historically, meaning over the last 3, 4, 5, 6 years, this is a team that's been built on goaltending and defense. That's how they won their Stanley Cup in 2012. That's how they won their Stanley Cup in 2014. This team wasn't as strong on the blue line throughout the year as previous teams. They had struggled on defense last year. The move to bring in Andre Sekera didn't work out for them, and it was sort of a patchwork defense that was put there on the blue line this year. And, we've seen guys come and go and kind of rotate around, and even a guy like Jake Muzzin, who was Drew Doughty's top partner, was moved as low as the third pairing earlier this year. So the defense really has been a patchwork for the LA Kings. And despite that, they still came in with a tremendous goals against average heading into the playoffs, and up until the final week of the season were involved in the discussion, or were in the running, I should say, for the Jennings Trophy. So goaltending and defense, which is even more important in the playoffs than it is in the regular season, would tend to favor the LA Kings on that bottom six scoring. I think there still are a lot of questions in Los Angeles, and there have been for 82 games, about where they're going to get that secondary scoring. If the defense is not as good as it was in 2012 and 2014, then you're going to need more offense. And where is that offense going to come from? You're going to get offense from Carter, Kopitar, and Toffoli, and now Milan Lucic, but where are you going to get it in the bottom six? Don't really know. The question hasn't been answered there. If I'm a San Jose Sharks fan, what I would be looking at in this series is the worst has already been experienced by the Sharks. They lived through that 2014 experience of losing Game 7 and being down, or being up 3-0, I should say. To me, they should be coming out loose. They shouldn't be coming out tight. It's 2 years removed. There's been a change at the top in the captain. Jumbo is just loving life right now and had a great season, was really quick, was really fast, really energized, a different player than some of the, not carrying the burdens that he was carrying back in the 2014 series. So if I'm a San Jose fan, I'm really encouraged. I think there's a lot working here. The fact that they don't have home ice is not a problem either. This is a team that played much, much better on the road this year than they did at home. Maybe playing a Game 7 on the road in Los Angeles would be a good thing for this San Jose Sharks team, if that's what it comes down to, rather than the pressures of playing that Game 7 at home and sort of reliving that 2014 experience. So at the end of the day, I do think that Los Angeles wins this series. I think it's going to be probably the best series, though, in the first round. And my last of my long-winded points here, these two teams absolutely hate each other. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about the hatred that exists within San Jose towards Los Angeles or other teams. But what I can tell you about LA is this. In 2010 through 2012, Kings fans liked to talk about the hatred they had for the Vancouver Canucks. And then after that, they liked to talk about the hatred they had for the Vancouver Canucks and then the Anaheim Ducks over the last couple years. But to a man, every single player in that Kings locker room, led by Drew Doughty, they would talk about their hatred for the San Jose Sharks. That was the team that really got their blood boiling. And so they respect the Chicago Blackhawks. That's the team that they really look up to, but they really despise, and there's a true hatred there for the San Jose Sharks that doesn't exist as much with some of their other rivals like Vancouver and like Anaheim. So I think that's going to make this a real nasty series, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
No, I absolutely agree. It's going to be nasty, but as you said, the Sharks should absolutely be loose. They shouldn't be tight. They literally have nothing to lose. They know what has happened. They've already gone through the worst. And over half the team, of the 22 guys that were on the bench in 2 years ago, aren't there anymore. So, Ian, how do you feel about this?
I don't like this series at all. I have the Kings in 7, making me the worst Sharks fan ever, I know. Look, I really try to, when I'm doing stuff like this or I'm writing, I always try to be objective. And there's a lot of things, like I said, about the LA Kings to like. There's a lot of things about the Sharks this year to like, too. And this is definitely a better Sharks team than the one that got reverse swept. But I feel like when you're playing guys, I mean, LA plays a heavy game, and the Sharks have a hard time with teams that play a heavy game. And you're looking at guys like Lucic, like Brown. These guys are going to put the hurt on the Sharks, and I think that they can, get the Sharks off their game. And what scares me the most is Peter DeBoer reacting too much to the physicality of the series, and then taking someone out of the lineup for Michael Haley. That obviously terrifies me. Goaltending, Jonathan Quick, when the playoffs happen, Jonathan Quick is, he's done a lot of good work, obviously, in the playoffs. He's got 2 cup rings. Martin Jones, untested in the playoffs so far. I mean, he's played, I think, 57 minutes of playoff action. But, I've really liked what I've seen from Martin Jones this year. But, there's just a lot of bigger question marks, I feel like, for the Sharks than there are for the Kings, and I just have a bad feeling about this one. I think it's a 7-game series. I think it's gonna be long, brutal. I hate this team with the heat of 1,000 million fiery suns, but I just being objective, I just feel like the Kings probably have the edge here, and I hate to say it, and then you can all unfollow me on Twitter now. Sorry.
Yeah, Ian has just lost 30 followers on Twitter. Gentry, how about you? How is San Jose going to make this happen this time?
Here's the thing. I'm gonna say San Jose in 7, and I think the X factor for this team is gonna be Logan Couture, because I think when you see your best friend and one of your good friends and Drew Doughty raise now 2 cups, and you're kind of just sitting there, and your team has had the closest thing, and you see and right there you're just looking up and you're just like, no, I think the friendship is over. I think Logan Couture is gonna come out with some fire and some gusto, and I think the Sharks will win it in 7. Is gonna be back and forth. It's gonna be a grueling pace, and you know what? I'm so looking forward to the series and dreading it at the same time. But I think San Jose is gonna have the upper hand because there's nothing to lose with this team, and I think I think that makes them scarier than the Kings because there's more pressure on the Kings than there is on the Sharks now.
All right,
if I could quickly respond to that,
Sure.
I'll just say there's one moment that I've mentioned many times since that 2014 series because it stands out in my mind so clearly. The morning skate, Game 7. It's in San Jose. San Jose, of course, had that 3-0 lead in the series. Now the series is tied. It's going to Game 7 that night. But you go into the locker room after the morning skate, and when Logan Couture was asked about the play that night and what he was feeling and that sort of thing, he openly talked about the fact that he was so nervous he wanted to throw up. That right there spoke to me about how confident or the lack of confidence and the nervousness and sort of the mood that permeated that team. So I would just sort of respond to that Logan Couture thing and say, I'm not sure. I haven't seen him turn the corner. So if he does turn the corner in this particular series, and I don't even mean winning the series, I just mean in order for Logan Couture to rise to the occasion, the first thing he needs to do is really have more confidence and not let the Kings' heavy game or the Kings' past success against this team weigh on his mind because it certainly was there in Game 7 in 2014. So if there was one player that would contradict what I said earlier about the team playing loose, if there was one player that I was worried about, it actually would be Logan Couture just because of those comments and how open he was back then going into that Game 7.
I agree with that. Huge.
What about you, Landy? What are your thoughts on this whole series?
Okay, so being the lone Sharks fan in Southern California, I can tell you why there is an issue with SoCal, NorCal. So born in Mountain View and live in San Diego, so a little background on me. It's that Dodgers-Giants rivalry that was started over 50 years ago that supersedes all of this. It's why we hate LA with a passion. It's why I hate LA with a passion. Why I despise everything that has an L and an A in it. So, growing up, I hated Dodger blue. Growing up, I hated silver and black. That's kind of gives you a reason why, and I think we kind of suffer from the big brother little brother syndrome in sports, NorCal versus SoCal. Getting to the series though, I just kind of want to break down goalie, defense. We'll call lower bottom 6 and upper top 6. Goaltending, I definitely give to LA. I think Jonathan Quick has the hardware. You know his pedigree. You know what he can do in the playoffs. Defense, I mean, Drew Doughty is the gem in that defensive crown, and I will say that, and I will give that to you all day. But it's the other 30 minutes that he doesn't play that's going to be the problem for the LA Kings. You said, they broke up Muzzin and Doughty, which is a good thing because Muzzin is a possession driver, so that kind of spreads out the defensive wealth. But it's that other 30 minutes that Drew Doughty does not play that I think the Sharks can really expose the lack of depth on that blue line for LA. Going to the forwards, bottom six, Sharks versus Kings, I'm going to say the Sharks probably hold a little bit of an edge in the bottom six. I think when you've got Patrick Marleau centering a third line and Chris Tierney, who's quietly had a really good year as a fourth line center, it's tough to match up those against those two. I mean, Vinny Lecavalier playing on your third line is pretty good, but I just wonder about his age. I wonder how much gas is left in the tank, and the scoring on that bottom six for LA. I agree with you. I don't know where it comes from. We're moving into the top six. I think they nullify each other. I really think that they both have the firepower to nullify each other. I think it's kind of going to be a traditional playoff series where lines 1 and 2 will equal out, and it will be lines 3 and 4 that dictate play and how the defensive acumen of the team, goes. So, we'll say top six, we'll say wash, we'll say bottom six Sharks, we'll say defense. I'll put it as an equal or wash, but I think I worry about the Kings after Doughty, and then we'll go goaltending LA. So for me, if the Sharks can't expose that defensive weakness, Sharks in 5.
Wow. Well, you know
Bold
what?
predictions.
Yeah, bold predictions, boy. Landy going out on the limb by himself.
Go big or go home, I guess, huh?
Absolutely.
Like I said before, that 30 minutes that Drew Doughty doesn't play, because Drew Doughty is going to play 30 to 35 minutes in an entire game, is where I worry about the Kings. I mean, McNabb hasn't played any playoff games. You worry about Muzzin because he's, on their playoff run, he was in and out. I think Drew Doughty and Rob Scuderi are the major guys that have carried over from the last Stanley Cup run, and that's about it. There's no Slava Voinov. There's no Martinez. There's no Willie Mitchell. So, that's why I say that.
Yeah, let me just jump in there and add a little bit more flavor to that. There's a real good chance that Alec Martinez is back during this series, and Martinez has definitely elevated his game from where he was. He used to be in the King system, a third pairing defenseman. He's now grown into a second pairing defenseman. He doesn't give you the offensive punch that Slava Voinov gave you on that second pairing, but he certainly can give you some offense, and he plays well within the King system. Let's not kid ourselves. Luke Schenn is not a replacement for a guy like Willie Mitchell or even a Rob Scuderi in his prime. Braden McNabb has not been a replacement for either of those players, especially a Rob Scuderi in his prime. But McNabb has played well in stretches, and you have to also look at the fact that Matt Green is ready to come back, and will he interject himself into the series? So it is a patchwork defense, as I alluded to earlier. But look at that goals against average. It's not just Jonathan Quick. That goals against average is a combination of Jonathan Quick and the entire Kings patchwork defense throughout this season. So as unbelievable as it is to even think about, they were right there in terms of goals against average, tops in the league, and certainly tops in the Western Conference, without players, other than Drew Doughty as true superstars. So Chicago showed everybody how to win last year with 3 or 4 defensemen, and the Kings are going to try to do the same thing again this year.
Yeah, I think if Marleau can just have himself a whale of a series, I kind of feel like Toffoli could be the X factor for LA.
Toffoli's so good.
Yeah, but for me, it comes down to a couple of things. Special teams, like I said, LA does put the opponent on the power play an awful lot and contain Doughty. Jamie Baker was on earlier talking about how back in '94 versus Detroit in that big first run, one of the ways that they were able to contain Paul Coffey in that is that they just had him playing on his offside and had him just kept pushing him off to that side, would not let him get comfortable, wouldn't let him move over to where he wanted to be. If they can do that with Doughty and just get him uncomfortable, I mean, yeah, Doughty is a snake. He can slither anywhere on the ice, but if they can just keep him in an uncomfortable position and get him off his game, I think they might be able to contain him, and I think the Sharks are a little bit deeper on defense, and we've seen what the Sharks special teams have brought this year, and we know the top power play unit with Jumbo and Pabs and Jumbo, Pabs, and Couture, but it's that second unit that we've seen so much production from this season that's kind of, I'm really hoping that could be the key that gets LA off their game. Maybe they're not taking those big hits because they don't want to, they might be a little bit of a fear going into the box if San Jose keeps working that power play at about 25 to 28%.
I just want to add one last thing. The one thing that really kind of took me off of LA was that last game of the season where they hold a 3-0 lead over Winnipeg and they stop playing. And you had the chance to win the division and play the quote-unquote easier matchup, and they let it slip away. And that's not normal of an LA Kings team. We don't see that from them. They're clamped down. They lock down. And so that's kind of what took me off LA. And I at the onset, when I kind of thought maybe Sharks in LA was going to be a thing, I was going to say, you know what, coin toss on 7. But that last game really, really made my confidence in LA just slip.
Yeah. Hey, John, thanks so much. I don't know if I know we only have you for a brief time. Is there anything, final words? Is there any other keys we should be looking for? And who's your pick for the Stanley Cup?
Right now, I say we just need to get out of the first round. Maybe I'm too superstitious through the years. Let's find out which teams survive. Earlier today, I did throw a podcast up that I recorded with my 10-year-old son. He came on the website mayorsmanor.com last year and gave his predictions for the first round, and people just loved it. So we had him back on a second time during the playoffs last year, and again, people were loving it, and they actually started asking for him to come back on this year. So we just recorded that yesterday. I'm embarrassed to say that he actually knows more about hockey than I do, and he did a great job of breaking down all 8 playoff matchups, across the league. So, and we certainly had different opinions as well, which I think is pretty interesting in terms of who's going to win the different series. So I did go out there on a limb and predict that Minnesota was going to take out Dallas over in the Western Conference. I also have Anaheim going up over Nashville, and I have Chicago in a sweep over St. Louis. In terms of LA and San Jose, I do, like I said earlier, I think that LA comes out on top of this series in 7 games, but it's going to be a phenomenal series, and so many of you guys brought up great points tonight. It is a razor close series, and it should be a lot of fun to watch. Appreciate you guys having me on. Hopefully your followers and your listeners will check us out on mayorsmanor.com and follow along on Twitter @MayorNHL. We'll have a writer up in San Jose covering the series up there, as well as having somebody down here in LA covering the games in SoCal. So we'll have full coverage throughout the series.
Yes,
that is awesome. Thank you so much for joining us, man. You have a great evening.
Yes, all right, boys. Have a good night.
Thanks, Mayor.
All right, that was the man himself, John Hoven, from mayorsmanor.com and the NHL channel on SiriusXM. And, boy, it sounds like we might need to get the mini-mayor on for the next round.
Right.
Yep.
I met John when we were at the outdoor game media day, and he was a great guy, nice to talk to, great hockey knowledge. Let him take one of my pictures when James Shepard slipped and fell, and had the paint me like your French girls pose on the ice. So yeah, great guy, and definitely a great guy to check out, especially on the radio and on his podcast.
His links are below in the description, by the way. And Slushy in the chat saying, no, he's not Mayor's kid.
I like that little nugget.
Well, we've hit them all. We've hit them hard, but we haven't really talk to anybody on the chat or on Twitter. So if there's any questions that come up, by all means, throw something up. I don't know. Has anybody? Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. We haven't finished off our picks, but I think it's all pretty universal, with the exception of the angry Canadian. This is the
that's
this is
so
what
wrong.
happens.
That's so wrong.
This, my friends, is what happens when you live with Canadian winters. You make picks like this. This is the problem. He's got a frost on the burn.
This is what happens when you try to be objective, Ian.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just
Oh, there's 10 more followers. They just
lost 10 more followers. I know.
Unfollow on Twitter. I read Pucknology.
Yeah.
Dude,
He's not one of us.
Keep
Clearly.
reading Pucknology, but don't. Yeah.
He's the infiltrator.
And he's Canadian too.
Dude,
Yeah,
I've never
I
seen.
mean,
This is
I'm
the
just-
first.
This
Wouldn't
is
it be
just me
Irene
bitter.
Pucknology at Hell Hydra?
This is the first time I've ever seen somebody with negative followers. This is amazing. So anyway,
Your negative followers is as bad as Patrick Marlowe's plus minus.
I know.
So with that, let's. I haven't seen any questions come up. I don't know if you guys were able to see anything or in the chat, or if you received anything on Twitter. If you did,
Chester says that my opinion doesn't count because there's no Canadian teams in the playoffs, and to you I say this, good sir.
Yeah, there was actually a comic strip that went around earlier today that says, "How do you know if a drug dealer is trying to sneak into Canada? Is that when they're stopped at the border and asked why they're there, they say for the NHL playoffs."
Oh.
Don't. All I ask is don't confuse my pick with what I want. I obviously want the Sharks to win this series. I'm just not 100% sold they can, and this team has burned me a bajillion fucking times.
We know, yeah, we understand.
We're Sharks fans. We do know.
Keep deflecting. Keep deflecting.
So I got psychoanalysis
unfaithful.
on TTG today as well. So
Did they like bring like a couch and stuff for you to sit on?
They might as well have.
Was it your mother?
So wow. With that, we're gonna give a final the round robin final thoughts. Do not forget, we will be doing playoff Pucknology after dark. After every Sharks game, there will be some group of the many that you see below. There will be some contingent of that. We may go a little more than usual since it is the playoffs, depending on everybody's schedule. But let's start with Gentry. What say you? Any final thoughts here, or extemporaneous hidden gems to talk about for any of these playoffs, or just the San Jose Sharks alone?
I still think that Logan Couture is going to be the X factor in this series because, Mayer kind of said that he was sick to his stomach, and he wasn't. He really didn't seem like his whole head was into it. But I put it like this. You feel that way when you're going to ask a girl out, and then when that girl rejects you and then embarrasses you, what do? You go after the hotter younger sister. So I think that's what Logan Couture is going to do. He's gonna find some way of burning Doughty, and he's going to go after the younger sister, and they're finally gonna bask in the glory that is the Stanley Cup. So
bizarrely enough, Slushy Jake just put "be right back" in the chat. I'm not sure why. Landy, what about you?
Look, I mean, like I told Mayer, and I wasn't really satisfied with the answer, but what is going to happen with the 30 minutes that Drew Doughty doesn't play? I mean, he kind of went over some of the guys that LA has got, but look, I mean, if you take away Doughty and you take away Burns or Vlasic for us, and you leave the rest of the players, you're either still going to have.
Doughty's a power play guy. Does he also kill?
Yeah, I mean, Doughty does everything.
Doughty does everything.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, if you can wear him out on the kill.
Right. No, I mean, not only that, but I'm just talking about 5-on-5 when DeBoer deploys his third line of Patrick Marleau and they deploy their second or third D pairing. I mean, I have total faith that the Sharks' third and fourth lines can exploit a second and third pair defensemen. I mean, I really do. I don't think I just don't think they have the defensive depth that they've had in the past. And I know that he said, oh, well, the goals against average is still the same and all of that. But look, I mean, we know that Sutter has his system, and that's why it artificially deflates goals against. So I don't like their depth on D. I really don't.
Well, and with that, when we're talking about goals for, goals against, all the things that the analytics love, we have to go to our analytic dude, Chris JWS.
Well, I actually have more analytics for you. So, I mean, it's hard to
What
really
a
boil this.
shocker.
It's really hard to boil this down to one X factor. Cause, we love that because that's great talking points. But another, yet another X factor. Joe Thornton. He was on ice for 70% of our even strength goals this season. That's the highest for any forward in 12 years. That's a crazy number. So I think he's going to be one of the key players to watch. He had 8 points in 5 games against LA this season. If he goes off, I think the Sharks have a great chance because he is their even strength scoring, and that'll be one of the big things to watch. So there you go.
And Ian, sir.
Yeah, I think that I agree that the Kings decor is somewhat overrated, but I think
very overrated.
Okay, maybe you can even go very overrated, but I do like that they can spread their depth out, and Chicago, Chicago played with half a decor last year and they did very well. Sutter's system, you can talk about it deflating things, but it works. I mean, I can't. It works. It just
okay. Ian, all right. I'm gonna get you back on the bandwagon. Okay.
Okay.
I'm gonna preach to you, buddy. All right. Take away Drew Doughty.
Yeah.
Who is going to play 20 minutes on that blue line after Drew Doughty? You think Jake Muzzin will play 20 minutes? You think they'll drag around McNabb and Muzzin for 20 minutes?
Well, you have Jake Muzzin who can fill in the minutes. I think, like you said, like the mayor said, Martinez is another guy to watch. Look, here's the thing, and I just want to, I think we somewhat overvalue our decor a little bit as well. I mean, you're hoping that Dylan DeMello doesn't get, because we've seen top talent just exploit the hell out of Dylan DeMello. So I'm hoping that Dylan DeMello, does he stay in the lineup with everyone else? I'm not sure, but I think that there's exploitability there. I worry about Brent Burns trying to do too much and causing big holes that Paul Martin may not be able to fix. Obviously Vlasic's going to be Vlasic, Braun's Braun. I think it's fine. There's enough sandpaper, though. I just really worry about the Sharks getting pulled off their game with the antics of Lucic. And you're talking about guys that aren't going to get suspended if they do stuff too, because it's the playoffs. Like, it's going to take so much. Like, Brown's going to have to basically put chains on his knee and go through Hurdle's leg before he's going to get suspended by the league. And Lucic is probably going to go away with more than you would expect him to get away with. I think that there's a lot of concerns there, because we've seen how the Sharks don't react well to getting pushed around. And we've seen that time and time again. We've seen the Sharks, fall down without when they get pushed around. So there's things in this series that worries me. I mean, now look, the Sharks have a good forward rotation. I think that's going to be a definite benefit to them. I like their bottom six better than the Kings, and it's just an issue of to going to Chris's point too about how Thornton's played. If they shut down Thornton, that's a rudderless ship.
And amen. Okay. For me, I'd like to see what happens with if DeMello is able to crack it. I hope not, because Dylan and Pollock are playing that well that DeMello isn't able to crack in there once Braun's back with Vlasic and Burns with Martin. But for me, this team literally has, nothing to lose. They should be so loose going into this, not to mention the fact that, like I said earlier, half of the roster was not here 2 years ago. So keep it loose. So you have some important players were, yes, of course, Thornton, of course, Marlowe, and Couture, and Pavelski. But one player that I think was not here 2 years ago goes by the name Martin Jones. And I have a lot more faith in Jones than I do Niemi. I think they are more comfortable with Jones back there, and they have to be playing with just a little, being more loose, knowing what Reimer can do, and he's right there just in case as your kind of golden parachute per se. But the bottom six that the Sharks have, this is like the strongest bottom six that we've seen them have in an awful long time.
Yep.
We know that the Sharks, as you said, they can play that heavy game. We saw it the last time they played LA. But play your game, Sharks. Make them come to you. Just speed, play hard, play fast. Don't settle for the shenanigans. Don't go with that crap. And if you can, just try to get into Quick's head. Crash the net. Make him uncomfortable. Get him off his game.
I agree. And another thing that it's like beat him where it counts, and that's on the scoreboard. And a quick note is that you also and like you said about Martin Jones is that you have somebody who was in that locker room for the Kings during the reverse sweep, so he knows what's going through the opponent's mind when they're playing. So he's going to be like, all right, we're up this amount in the series. I know what they're saying to each other. I know what they're going to do. So if you have that, you kind of have that as another thing to look forward to, is that you have somebody who is, on that other side of the fence, Now he's a defector, and he's the chosen one that needs to defend the Teal Town. So I wouldn't have it any other way.
All right, Puck Guy, what ultimately happens in this series?
Simple. There's going to be a winner and there's going to be a loser. And if the loser is wearing teal, hopefully their general manager is fired.
Because teal must be always.
Teal must be always. Hey, we got to turn up in teal. Come on now. If you can't get up for this series, then you shouldn't be on this team. Plain and simple.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to bust in on you.
No, you're good. You're good. I was trying to stifle a cough for a second. But here's the thing. Gentry hits it right on the head. You have Jones, who's been in there in LA. You have half the roster. This is probably the deepest roster we've had in Sharks history, I would think, in quite some time. Where if somebody's not, if you're not working, there's somebody ready to jump on there. And you got to have that hunger. You got to have that tenacity. You got to have that strength, and you got to want it. You absolutely got to want it, because if not, tell PDB right now, and you don't need to get out of the hotel room.
And just if the Sharks were to lose in the first round, man, that'd be an awful lot of facial hair to lose in the first round. Just overall.
And put it like this, Logan: if you win the Stanley Cup, Selena Gomez will take your phone calls.
Wow.
What you got, Ian?
I think maybe not. Maybe the players don't have as much to lose in this series, but I think this is a huge series for the Sharks in general. I mean, I don't think there's nothing on the line here. If the Sharks don't have a good showing, then this is going to do irreparable damage to them in this market, because other teams are winning and other teams. I mean, we saw even when they're in the playoffs, they still can't fill SAP. And I'm not even sure that we're going to fill SAP for the first night of the playoffs. I mean, they're playing the Kings, so maybe Kings fans will travel, but. If they're playing like let's say the Coyotes or something, do they fill the barn? I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with that. But this team needs to make a statement right now, because if they lose this series, you would have to say that Wilson, the fans, or there's going to be a contingent of fans that are just like, enough is enough. It's going to be Plotner, sell the team, fire Wilson, fire Tatora, fire just everybody, get rid of the guys who don't know how to draft and develop D for over a decade. It's just going to be burn the damn thing down. We're tired of this.
Will they, or will they just go and watch the Giants and just forget that the Sharks exist? That would be my bigger catch.
That's the big catch right there, Ian. You hit it right on the head. I'm writing an article on it midday tomorrow. They're going to go to the Giants. They're going to go to the Niners. They're going to go to the Quakes. They're definitely going to the Warriors, as we could see tonight. But they need to win, and they need to probably get to the conference final for them to be successful in anything, back in ticket sales and some respectability in the media, because everybody's getting all excited about the Warriors. Giants are starting off pretty decently. A's aren't doing too bad.
But that was
and-
expected.
But that was expected. Meanwhile, Sharks are getting some love. Thank you, KNBR. Thank you for stepping up your game. But yeah, this team needs a PR boost. One they were hoping to get there and didn't get, or in 2014, but no. They need to come out gangbusters, and if they don't, then I fear what's going to happen if they don't.
Right, because I obviously there's gonna be people, like, if something goes wrong, and I don't want to get too far down this road, but if something goes wrong, obviously there are gonna be people that are gonna be passionate and upset about it. I'm just worried, is there going to be enough to affect any actual change, or other than the people that just kind of just wander away from the team.
Yeah.
You know what? I think if I don't even want to go. I don't even want to think about it. But if the Sharks lose this, you could start to question whether or not they're going to stay in San Jose.
Well, they still have that extension
They have
for like
the
another
lease.
decade. Yeah,
But it's all good
Yeah,
because
clauses,
they'll end up going to Vegas.
yeah. Well, Plattner had that. Well, I'm not worried about that at this point. The whole thing is, just get this damn monkey off your back. Try to get some respectability again. Now, granted, as we all know, there is an awful lot of competition for the sporting dollar in the Bay Area, and winning is obviously going to be the thing that gets people to whip out their wallets. So they have to win this if they expect the media to pay attention, whether it's newspaper, radio, I don't care what it is. And I was even speaking with somebody kind of that, let's just say we're going to not mention his name. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but all those goodies that the Sharks handed out, there was a reason for that, and there was a decent amount of those that were kind of done last minute because we need to try to do something to drive sales. You obviously can't lower the prices of the tickets for the regular season. Those are already pretty much set. You can offer some little bonuses here, 2 for 1, what have you, but you have to maintain that level for when the Sharks do start playing well again. You don't put yourself in a hole. It wouldn't surprise me if we see a whole bunch of giveaways. And speaking of giveaways, we're done with the black jerseys in the goddamn postseason, okay? It is time. It is all about teal. You can see Eric has a photo up of the shirt that they are giving away to all the fans that come to Game 3. I would assume that they're either going to have the same shirt being given away at Game 4 or some variation of, some different. Maybe the logo for Game 4 is the current crest versus the Heritage crest. But this is nice to see, and I remember bringing this up back then that it really irked me that when you saw every single Warriors playoff game last year, there would always be a shot of the Warriors arena prior, and every seat had a yellow T-shirt on it, for everybody to wear these big bright yellow shirts. Yet the Sharks are giving away a towel that's about as big as a postage stamp and about as soft as one. So it's really nice to see that them stepping up and doing this. I would love to see how this is going to look on TV because that's always been the Sharks' biggest bitch or the biggest reason why they wouldn't do teals. It doesn't show up well on TV. Bitch, we got 4K now. Believe me, we can see when people are wearing teal. We can certainly see when the seats are empty on TV. We can see teal, okay?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
No, I totally agree. Totally agree.
So, Eric, with that, we're at 90 minutes, bro. Get us out of here.
Guys, get excited, get ready. We're about to get cup crazy. Make sure you have subscribed down below because we're going to be here throughout every postseason game in some form. Make sure you check out Pucknology.net for probably the most comprehensive coverage on any site that's not an official NHL site, of course, or CSN. But nonetheless, we will bring on...
rockers in the face. Just saying.
Make sure you also check out mayorsmayor.com. John Hoven, gracious enough to join us. Appreciate everything that you given given to us, and for the love of God, wear teal like it's 1994. Because teal must be always. You must turn up in teal. Yes. Make sure. I don't want to see a white jersey. I don't want to see that black armor. And Gentry, no frickin' orange Barracuda jersey.
Damn it.
Attaboy. We're teaching
All right,
him.
I got overtime to watch. Let's go.
All right. With that, until tomorrow night after game 1, keep it real, keep it fresh, keep it real fresh. Go Sharks.